What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you 4 classic entitled people stories, which you're going to absolutely love. So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into the first one. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you do go on to enjoy these stories, hit the button. It's completely free. And we're growing towards 700,000 now, so get it done. Racist customer demanded we fire and replace our employees with white American employees, even though we are an immigrant-owned business. I mean, I've got to just say this off the bat. It doesn't matter if you're an immigrant-owned business or not. Demanding that you fire and replace employees with white American employees is crazy. Anyway, let's get into the story. Okay, I am a 28-year-old woman, and I live here in Colorado. But my family and I emigrated here to the States from the former Yugoslavia, with my mother being Serbian and my dad being Montenegrin. My dad owns his own renovation business, which he was inspired to set up after watching the TV show Home Improvement. And even though I have my own full-time job, I do casual work for my dad's business, mainly doing office admin and payroll stuff. My dad has 2 employees, both of whom are Filipino. And one day, we had a customer who booked a job, and my dad sent his 2 employees to go to the customer's house, only for the customer to turn them away, telling them to leave. My dad's worker, who I will call Miguel, texted me to say that the client told them to leave. So I just assumed that they changed their mind and wanted to cancel the job. However, literally a few minutes after the text from Miguel, I received a call from the customer, who I will call Ken, who angrily complained about having 2 Chinese employees come over to his place, complained about them stealing jobs from white men, and actually demanded that we fire them, replace them with white employees, and send over an employee who is white and not an immigrant. I pretty much knew how this conversation was going to play out, but I decided to just roll with it and tell him that those 2 Asian men were our only employees and that our business is an immigrant-owned business, as my dad and I are both immigrants from Montenegro. Ken then demanded that we at least send over an employee who is white, and I told him it makes no difference if the employee is white or not, as the fact that my family and I are European makes us not really different to immigrants from the Philippines, China, Mexico, wherever. He then accused us of stealing jobs, saying things along the lines of, "This is Trump's America now, and that you don't deserve the business." And after letting him rant, I just told him to find someone else to do the job and hung up. Well, there we go, guys. Some story to start this episode. Absolutely ridiculous. I just hope for your sake as a company that you guys had some form of non-refundable deposit in place, because you've had to send workers out there for nothing. So I hope at least you had some money or some compensation for their time. But let's just talk about the guy for a second. I just don't really understand what he's even saying. Is he saying that because you employ immigrants, or the fact that you yourself are an immigrant, that you don't deserve the business that you've built for yourself, which obviously wouldn't exist without everything that you've done? How is this stealing jobs? I don't get it. You've just done well yourself. It's not stealing jobs at all, is it? And even if it was, if you're doing the job better than some fat, lazy white guy, then power to you. Keep doing your stuff. You know what would genuinely be amazing to see in America, or just any country in the world, right? Well, the Western world, most likely. What would happen if all non-white people just said for a few days or a week, "I'm not going to work today, and let's just see what happens." Genuinely. So every immigrant, or I guess non-American, let's say for this example, every immigrant, every non-white person just said, "You know what? I'm not working today." I think that the entire country would just immediately implode, right? I mean, what would happen? Nothing would work. The whole country would just blow up. Genuinely, I mean, think about it. Get in the comments down below. What do you think would happen? I think it would just be absolute anarchy and probably be so funny to watch from someone in the UK. When my mailbox moving became political. So, when we bought the house and moved in 3 years ago, we accepted the location of the mailbox. It's on the other side of our driveway and across some uneven ground, about 50 yards away from the door. This wasn't a problem back then, but since that point, we've had a series of bad luck. My wife needed a new knee, I sprained an ankle, and while it's healed enough to walk on and go back to work, anyone who's had one knows that it can take a while before it's back to 100%. So it was decided that the mailbox ought to be moved to the end of our path to the street. Straight ahead, on a flat and smooth surface, only about 30 feet away. We asked the post office what we needed to do to move a mailbox. We were told that all we needed to do was let the driver know that it was being moved and to just move it, making sure that it's numbered to match the house so there's no confusion. We went to the store to buy a new one since the old one was getting a little ratty from getting hit a couple of times, and I installed it this weekend. Which was, to our amusement, the best time to install it, since we actually caught the driver and were able to tell her that here was the new mailbox and that the other was going away. Great. Situation handled. Installation goes well, and now we're on to part 2, the removal of the other mailbox. Here's where my moving the mailbox got political. The old mailbox was on the same post as my neighbour across the street and one house over, so we shared it. During this past election, I posted no signs supporting either of the candidates. My neighbour John, not his real name, had half a dozen signs though. Flags and a banner as well in his yard in support of a certain candidate. John came over as I was removing the old box and complained that the only reason I was doing this was that I didn't support said candidate, and this was my petty ass reason, and that I just didn't want to be associated with him. In truth, I didn't want to be associated with him. Largely before we knew he was a supporter, he wasn't a very pleasant person. Walking my dog, he'd yell at me to keep that goddamn mutt off my yard, even though I was on my side of the street. He'd also call animal control on me about my chickens running loose across his yard, when in reality it was his neighbour to his right that had the chickens. I don't have any, although I did buy a used chicken coop since it's also a very nice unit for keeping my wife's Angora rabbits in. So I can see the confusion. We used to wave to him like we'd do for any of our neighbours we'd see outside, and he never waved back, typically just ignoring us and making a point to look at something, anything else other than us. Unless we had the dog, then he'd watch us like a hawk to make sure we didn't come near his lawn. Honestly, we disliked him long before we knew he was a supporter. I explained the medical condition, the walk through uneven ground that I stated above, but that wasn't enough for him. He threatened to call the HOA. We don't have an HOA, we have a neighbourhood association that only concerns itself with collecting donations for snow removal and mosquito spraying. I just finished removing the mailbox and went back inside, and I vowed to ignore him from here on out. Well, that is the end of the second story, and all I can think is, are we sure that these two people in the first story and the second story aren't the same? I mean, I think it might be right. This guy is, well, let's be honest, the guy in the first story was clearly a Trump supporter, as well as this guy as well. So, I mean, the top comment here says, your neighbour is mentally ill. I don't know if I'd go that far, but yeah, mentally there's a lot going on there, that is for sure. And once again, probably a racist. I mean, to be fair, that's a bit harsh. We don't have any evidence to suggest he's racist, but I would just love if John was the same person as in the first story. It would just make me laugh. Brother throws fit because he didn't get a job interview. So this happened a couple of years ago, but no matter what, I can't get over how entitled my brother acted. For context, my brother, who was at the time about 23 years old, and my older sister, who was 28, both applied to one of the only jobs hiring near where they lived. The job was for a cashier position, which my sister had several years of experience in customer service, while my brother only worked 1 year at a factory in his life and quit because he didn't get a raise, claiming it was unfair when staff who worked there for 5+ years got raises. But anyways, one day we were out shopping when my sister got a call from the job they both applied for. They wanted her in for an interview. When hearing that, my brother basically threw a fit. He told my sister it was unfair you got an interview and I didn't when I put in an application a week before you did, and I even called to check up on it. I reminded him that our sister has experience while he doesn't. He then repeated, but I put in an application first. I should be first. Then I told him that's not how interviews work. They wait for the ones with experience so they don't have to do much training. He then got even more upset and claimed that the store is sexist and she's only getting hired because she's a female, which honestly made me so irritated. He was acting like a child, and our dad tried backing him up, telling my sister to put in a good word for your brother. My sister told our dad there's no way she can do that because even if she gets hired, it would be wrong to immediately convince them to hire our brother. While this conversation was going on, My brother kept on going on about how the owner is male, so he must be sexist and only want females, since currently the only staff there are women. So in order to get in, he needed our sister to tell them to hire him too during her interview. I noticed my sister getting upset throughout all of this. At first, she was so excited to get the interview and was hoping that everyone would be happy for her. But instead, no, they acted like she was wrong for getting the interview instead of our brother. I told my dad and brother that that was enough and that she got the interview because she has several years of experience under her belt, while our brother had none, and it had nothing to do with her gender, and that no, she wasn't going to mention our brother during her interview or after getting hired, because if they didn't contact him, clearly he didn't cut it, and just stop. After that, everyone went silent. I mean, this is absolutely crazy, because what your brother, OP, is asking your sister to do, and for some reason your dad is supporting him on this, is to potentially sacrifice her own job, her own career, if she does, get this job. By the way, she's only got an interview so far, for the sake of her brother. Like, imagine you went into a job interview and your sibling had said to you, yeah, during your interview, would you mind just letting them know that I have also applied for the job and I also want it? Firstly, are there even 2 jobs available, or are they just hiring one person? Because imagine you were competing for the same job and your brother was like, no, just tell them about me in your interview. I want to get it. And secondly, you're just completely scuppering your own chances if you just say, yeah, this is why I deserve the job. But also, have you seen my brother's CV? He could also be great. And also, even if you do get the job and you're in your first week or whatever, like your brother's asking, imagine you're in a new job and you say, this is great, guys. Really happy to be here. I really feel settled now, to the extent that I can now say, would you consider hiring my brother after just a few days of working at an institution? I mean, that would be downright ridiculous. Your brother is clearly very entitled. I think your dad is as well. Maybe that's where he gets it from. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if your brother hasn't got an interview, he's not qualified enough and he doesn't deserve one. And that's on him. Her face went red in anger. I thought I'd share a story from my time as a worker at a very popular theme park in Florida. I've mentioned in other stories I've shared that I worked at an attraction. One day, I was fast past line greeter, and it was in the middle of peak season. We were ridiculously crowded, with wait times for standby being 2 hours, single rider around 50 minutes, and fast pass over an hour. We were instructed to allow people in on the time stamped on their fast pass to help thin the line. Sometimes when it wasn't as busy, we'd allow people to enter 5 minutes earlier than their ride reservation. A woman wearing white shorts, a fanny pack, and a white sun visor came walking up happily with her group and showed me her fast pass. I stopped her because it was 10 minutes early. I politely explained she'd have to wait to enter on the time stamped on the fast pass ticket. Oh, come on. Really? It's just a few minutes early, she said. I apologise, Mum. Unfortunately, we're very busy, so you're going to have to wait for the time on your fast pass. That's ridiculous. Everyone else let us in a few minutes early. She then tries to walk past me, but that's not happening. I blocked her by stepping in her way. I smile and I ask her to step to the side. Ugh, she says. I continue to let people in according to the times on their passes as the woman glares angry daggers at me. A man next to her tells her to just wait. It's not that serious, but she is fuming. Literally 3 minutes go by and she storms back up and shoves the pass in my face. Good enough now. Can I go in now? At this point, I'm trying to remain magical. Mom, you still have 7 minutes until you can enter. Please step to the side. You're joking. 7 minutes? You're not seriously going to make me wait for 7 minutes? Yes, I am. Please step to the side. Another 2 minutes go by as a line of people come in. I check everyone's time, not looking at faces so much, but hands and tickets when I see the same ticket. I look up and it's the same woman again. She still had 5 minutes to wait. Now I'm irritated and she's irritated. I just stare at her for a few seconds quietly before doing a 2-finger point back to the side where her group and others were waiting patiently. She stormed back off as my co-worker Kate walked up with my brake slip. The woman instantly got a grin on her face when she saw I was about to leave. Her grin, though, annoyed me so much, and my petty box was immediately switched to on. So I gave Kate a brief version of events, and I instructed her to make sure she waited until the exact time printed on the frickin' FastPass ticket. She laughed a bit and said, okay. I walk away, but only a few feet, when she sauntered over, arrogantly grinning to Kate, and shows her the ticket. Sorry, but you're gonna have to wait until the time printed on the FastPass, Mom, Kate says. The woman, with her face turning incredibly red in anger, says, did she tell you to do that? Well, I have to work with her. I'm just standing pettily a few feet away, saying nothing. I feel like I talk about customer service jobs quite a lot in my episodes, because a lot of the stories that we see, especially with entitled people, are like just terrible customers. I feel like Disneyland or Disney World or whatever it's called, wherever you are in the US or in France or whatever, must be one of the toughest jobs when you get like an entitled person like this. And as OP said, like you're trying to maintain the magic and make this place so beautiful and special for children. I remember when I went there, and this is in France. I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World in America, but Disneyland Paris, and you know, the people that work there must be amazing. I don't really remember any of them in particular, but I just felt like it was such a special environment and like otherworldly and just almost heavenly. And obviously that is down to the people working there as much as it is everything else, because imagine if the people working there weren't like in that sort of mindset or so positive or like dreamy, it just wouldn't work, right? So to have people like this Karen of a woman potentially like jeopardizing that and ruining that for kids like myself, because I don't know how you, OP, have kept your cool as well as this. Like, fair play to you for doing that. You know, imagine me as a kid. I'm in the queue behind this Karen, and I see her having a go at you, and then you're just like, I can't be bothered with this sort of person anymore, and you flip, or you lose your head a little bit. That would just ruin the entire experience for me as a kid. So fair play to you for maintaining your cool. The point being, I feel like this would be one of the worst sort of customer service roles there is at an extreme, because you have to stay so professional and so positive. Maybe that's the case in a lot of customer service roles, but I feel like at Disney World, that's like the epitome of you've got to stay in character. You've got to stay positive, because who knows who's watching, and yeah, it's an amazing experience for kids like myself. But fair play to you. Well done for doing your job. But yeah, I don't think I'll be able to manage with people like this. There we go, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you reckon there's a tougher customer service job in terms of one where you really have to like maintain that level the entire time? You can't even just say, you know, like if you're a store assistant and someone's annoying you, you can't just say, look, get out of my shop, whatever. Like, do you think there's a tougher role out there? I mean, there almost definitely is. And it's hard to think when I'm talking myself. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. But that is going to do it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, as I said, and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you want more right away, check out this episode on screen, and I'll catch you on the next one.